Welcome to this lesson. So in the last lesson we started out with document object model manipulation, that is manipulating our document by using JavaScript properties and functions, and we looked at the getElementById function and the inner text property. So in this lesson let's look at the click event. So let me first remove all of this because we won't be using them. So we're going to be creating and manipulating the click event. So click event in simple words is just this. Whenever an element in a HTML page is clicked, it doesn't have to be a button, it could be anything. You can even create a click event for a paragraph, as in when a paragraph is clicked, something has to happen. When a button is clicked, something has to happen. So whenever an element is clicked, so and so happens, and what happens is going to be mentioned in a JavaScript function. Alright, so that's what click event basically means. So one of the easiest ways to manipulate the click event is by using the HTML's onClick, alright, onClick function. So let me create that first so I can show you how that works. So first of all, let me remove this paragraph because I won't need it, and let's create a button. So the tag is button, and then I'll give it an ID of button1 for now, and it's going to have text of button text is going to be button. So now I'm going to create an onClick event on this button like this. So the first attribute of this button is the ID, so give a space so you can add another attribute that says onClick. All of it is going to be small letters, alright, so it's equal to a function call. So let's give the function call as button click. We haven't created the button click function yet, but let me just give the function call for now. So what this code does is, whenever the button is clicked, this particular button, whenever it's clicked, it'll invoke or call the button click function. Okay, and it'll execute whatever is mentioned within the button click function. So we're actually telling our browser that on click of this button, the button click function should be called and the function should be executed. So that's what this particular line of code actually means. So now we need to go back to our JavaScript code and define the function so it actually has something to do. Button click, before that function button click, and then parenthesis. There's going to be nothing within the parenthesis because we aren't sending any arguments. So what can we do? So let's make it like whenever the button is clicked, we're going to get an alert that says thanks for clicking. I've just created this as an example. You can do anything you want. You can do calculations, you can manipulate elements within this function, you can do pretty much anything you want within that particular button click. So whenever the button is clicked, an alert that says thanks for clicking should pop up. Let's see if that works. Let me save this first and then live preview. So alright, so we have our button here. So let me click it. There you go. Thanks for clicking. So we've created a click event that does whatever we want when we click a button. Okay, so this is the easiest way to create a click event, by using the onClick attribute of HTML. But there is a catch, as there always is with easiest possible ways, because it's bad practice to create a click event with HTML's onClick attribute. You're basically bringing in JavaScript function calls into the HTML page. If you look here, there is a button click function call. Okay, so that's a JavaScript code within a HTML code, and doing so is severely frowned upon in the programming world. Your HTML markup, that is all the tags and everything, and your script should always be kept separate. That's why we've created a separate script.js file. Alright, so by using the onClick, you're actually combining both of them into your HTML page, and that's not the best practice. The most professional programmers don't use onClick at all. So then what do they use? They actually create events within JavaScript's own addEventListener function. So JavaScript has something called addEventListener, and they use this particular built-in function. Alright, so it's built-in function just like our getElementById function, and they use it to create events, and one of those events can be click event, and then within that they call in the function button click or whatever function they want to call in. So that's how it's usually done in the JavaScript world. Alright, so to do that, let's first get the element by its ID. So I can do that by saying document.get element by ID, and then inside that let me place the ID of my button, which is going to be button1. If you see here, the ID is button1. Alright, so now that we've retrieved our button by using its ID, we can add an event listener to it. The add event listener function has two attributes. So first of all, we're retrieving the button, and then we are adding an event listener to it. And this is another function, so it has to have parentheses, and inside it, it's going to have two attributes or values or whatever you want to call it. One is the event we are adding, that is, it could be the click event, or it could be the mouse down event, which basically means that you're clicking the left button of your mouse, and then it could be the mouse up event, which means you're not clicking your mouse, you've stopped pressing your mouse button. So, and then the second attribute is going to be the function name. Alright, so in here our event is going to be the click event, so we want to create a click event, and then our function name is going to be button click. So even though we are calling a function here, we don't have to mention parentheses in here with an add event listener. All you have to do is just mention the function name, and that's it. But the event name should be in quotes all the time, and the function name does not have to be in quotes. That's how the syntax of an add event listener function works. Alright, so finally let's include a semicolon. So let me just do a quick recap. We're going into our document, which is our HTML document, and we are getting the element by ID, which is the ID button1, so which means we're getting this particular element, that is a button, and then we're adding an event listener to it. The event is the click event, and whenever there's a click event, we are calling our button click function. So that's what this long line of code basically means. So now that we've created a click event that calls the button click function, let's remove our onClick event from our HTML page because we don't need it anymore. So let's remove this. Alright, so now let's look at this output. So let me save this first, and then let's look at the output. See, thanks for clicking. So the same thing works, but this time everything is within the JavaScript code. We didn't have to mix our HTML code and our JavaScript code with the onClick attribute to get the same result. So we've done it like the pros do. So that's one way to do it, and you also know the other way, right? So you can first get a variable. So variable could be something like button, and then receive this particular element within that variable. I'm sorry, it has to be button, and then you can use that variable to add the event. So it can be done in both ways, but if you don't like long lines of code and if you want to break up your code, then this is probably the best way to do it. So it's all up to you. So that's it for our click event lesson. So congratulations, you're one step closer to becoming a pro web developer because you've now started using add event listeners rather than onClick. So that's a big step in my opinion. So let's end our brief tutorial right here. As I told you before, I'm only covering the things you need to create this particular project in these basic tutorials. So please keep that in mind. JavaScript is a much bigger language with a lot of topics than what we've covered here. Alright, so I'll see you in the next module. Bye bye.